The San Francisco 49ers will travel to Seattle to take on the Seahawks in a pivotal must-win game for the Niners on Thursday Night Football. And coming up here on the San Francisco 49ers Report, Chase Sr. here with you. No matter where you are or how you're tuned in, I appreciate you for making today's show a part of your day. We're going to preview this game, in which Nick Bosa has called, by the way, a must-win ball game for the Niners. This is a great rivalry. Anytime these two teams meet up, it's very intense. It's very physical. Both organizations hate one another. They both have rich histories, and these two fan bases despise one another as well. So let your voices be heard. If you hate the Seahawks, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon, like the video, and type F Seattle down in the comment section right now. Cannot wait for this game. So much at stake for both of these teams inside the NFC West, but of course in the NFC playoff picture as well. Game going down Thursday, October 10th. Kickoff is set for 8:15 p.m. Eastern, 5:15 p.m. Pacific at Lumen Field in Seattle, one of the more hostile environments in the National Football League. George Kittle said yesterday it's one of his favorite places to play. It's going to be prime time. The fans are going to be loud, and both teams hate one another, and that fits the billing. The Niners are 3.5-point road favorites in this game, even after that ugly loss against the Arizona Cardinals, and the over-under is set for 49 even. We have the best preview for this matchup that you'll find here on YouTube, but before we look at the intricacies of this game, key matchups to watch, my takeaways, what the Niners must do to win this ball game, be sure to subscribe and join us tomorrow on Thursday Night Football. Our pregame show will begin an hour and 15 minutes before this game gets underway. We'll see you at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Our watch parties here on the Niners Report, the best place to experience a Niners game day outside of being at the actual game. It is fitting that we start here with the gander at the NFC West standings. The Seahawks are in first place in this division, all thanks to their 3-0 start to the year. 3-2 overall record after back-to-back losses. They have not played a game yet in the NFC West. The Arizona Cardinals, because of their undefeated record inside this division, in second place at 2-3. They are 2-0 inside the NFC West. The 49ers, also 2-3, but 0 in the division so far after choking away games against the Rams and against the Cardinals. And then the Rams, 1-4, 1-1 in the NFC West, their only win coming against the Niners a couple of weeks ago. And is this a must-win game? General Manager John Lynch was on the radio this morning on this Wednesday, October 9th, as we record this show, and he said, well, technically it's not a must-win game because if we lose, we're still in it, but it's about as close to a must-win game as you could imagine because he noted it's not ideal to start off 0-3 in the division. Now, the Niners have started off slow before, and historically under Kyle Shanahan, it's been a little bit of a theme. Back in 2021, remember when the Niners started 3-5, still made it to the NFC Championship game. In 2022, started 4-6, still made it to the NFC Championship game. But starting off 2-4 and 0-3 in the NFC West would be a tough early hole to climb out of, and you look at the upcoming schedule. You get the Kansas City Chiefs at home on a mini bye week because you play on Thursday Night Football. You have the Dallas Cowboys at home, a tough game on the road against a very solid Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, which is one of the more surprise teams in the NFL, not just in the NFC. You have the Seattle Seahawks at home, and then you're on the road against the Green Bay Packers, and then after that, on the road against the Buffalo Bills. So the Niners have to get it figured out, and they have to get it figured out very quickly. The Seahawks' path so far to begin the 2024 campaign began the season 3-0. 26-20 win over the Broncos at home in Week 1. 23-20 win on the road against the Patriots in overtime in Week 2. They crushed the Miami Dolphins 24-3 at home in Week 3. That was the game that Skylar Thompson started. 42-29 losers against the Detroit Lions 2 weeks ago in prime time when they kind of came back to reality. And then this past weekend, a surprising 29-20 loss against the New York Giants. The 49ers so far, 32-19 win against the Jets. They looked really good in that game. The next two defeats, they were ugly. They were bad offensively against Minnesota in that 23-17 loss, and then they just choked the game away in the second half, in particular in that fourth quarter against the Rams, losing that game on a last-second field goal, 27-24. The Niners come back, and they dominate the New England Patriots, 30-13, but once again, it was one of the consistent, worrisome themes for the Niners, even though they won that game by 17 points. They could not finish in the red zone, and then against the Arizona Cardinals, couldn't finish in the red zone. They missed 12 tackles. They gave up explosive plays. And even though Deommodore Lenoir returned a field goal back for a touchdown, even though Nick Bosa had a pick, even though Brandon Ayuk had nearly 150 yards, they found a way to lose against the Cardinals. And oftentimes, bad teams find ways to lose games. My view on the Seattle Seahawks to start this year, to begin the season, they beat up on bad teams, bad quarterback play, bad overall rosters, and their offense was humming. Their defense was first in EPA through the first 3 weeks. But then they've suffered consecutive losses to a good to really good team in the Detroit Lions, and then a pretty average team in the New York Giants, which has played really well at the point of attack with their defensive line and offensive line, and oftentimes you will win a lot of games playing that way. As I noted off the rip, this is a great rivalry between San Francisco and Seattle. And from 2012 through 2021, it wasn't really a rivalry because it was one-sided. The Seahawks owned the Niners. San Francisco was 3-17 against the Seahawks during that stretch. But they've reversed the tide here. And since 2022, they've dominated Seattle, 5-0 in their matchups as NFC West rivals. Of course, Pete Carroll, no longer the head coach for the Seahawks. The Mike Macdonald era is underway. He previously served as the defensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens, who last year had the #1 overall defense in the NFL. And on Christmas night, that Ravens defense caused a lot of problems for Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan. The Niners lost that game against Baltimore by a tally of 33-19. Brock Purdy probably had his worst game as a quarterback at the NFL level. He was 18 of 32 for 255 yards, no touchdowns, and 4 picks. He also, during that game, had a lot of balls batted down at the line of scrimmage. What happened last week? Tipped picks ended up dooming the Niners, and it ended up being the worst overall offensive game of the season for the Niners, considering how big that game was, the implications of it, and a lot of people thought at that juncture of the year that was a Super Bowl preview, and the Niners fell flat on their faces. What the Niners must do in order to take down the Seattle Seahawks to win their first divisional game this year, they have to figure out their red zone woes. And if the Niners do that, they will win this football game. If the Niners move the ball like they have all year, but they don't punch it into the paint and capitalize in the red zone with touchdowns, I think they lose this game. The Niners have struggled mightily with finishing in the red area, and it's kept other teams in the game. And that's why the Niners partially are off to this 2-3 start. The Niners simply have not been able to finish inside the 20. They're second in the NFL in red zone trips behind the Commanders with 22. They're second in the NFL in yards per game, but their red zone scoring percentage is 40.9%. That's 29th in the NFL. The Niners have made it to the red zone on 41% of their drives. That's 4th in the NFL, but they've only scored a touchdown on half of those trips. And this is where the Niners have really missed Christian McCaffrey in the red area with his versatility, the challenge that he poses to defenses as a runner and as a pass catcher, and that really opened up everything for the other weapons on this offense. And Brock Purdy has really struggled inside the red zone once the field has gotten condensed as things have gotten tighter. He's tried to create plays. He hasn't been able to do that. The play designs and the play calls of Kyle Shanahan haven't been there. I think the Niners have to run the ball a little bit better, but sometimes when they've run it, the offensive line hasn't been able to run block, and last week, as we saw, another back-breaking turnover as Jordan Mason got a carry. As the Niners didn't have a field goal kicker, he fumbled the ball away. That opened up the door for the Cardinals to steal that game on the road. The Niners' red zone success rate, this is troubling here. And if it doesn't get figured out, it could be a long season for the Niners. In 2023, the Niners were first in red zone success rate at 55.3%. That has gone down about 20 points this year. And the Niners, in turn, have gone from first to 25th as their red zone success rate is 35.7%. So with the Niners turning these drives into field goal drives and them not being touchdown drives, that's a 4-point swing. Not only is it a swing on the scoreboard, it's a swing in momentum. And they haven't played complementary football in all three phases. Offense hasn't been good enough. Special teams unit has been one of the worst in the NFL. And because this Niners defense can't stop the run, can't get after the quarterback, they've had breakdowns on the back end. They haven't been good enough to get stops late. So the defense hasn't been able to bail out the offense, and the offense hasn't been able to help out the defense. And that's why the Niners are a 2-3 football team going into Thursday Night Football. So who you got? SF for the Niners, SEA for the Seattle Seahawks. Get those game predictions in. I'll unveil my game prediction coming up here in just a bit. But in the meantime, sound off with what you think down below. What do I think about the Game Time app? Our sponsor for today's Niners Report. I think it's the best app in the ticketing marketplace for a bevy of reasons. And here are those reasons. With the Game Time app, they specialize in last-minute tickets at the lowest price guaranteed. So you will get in the door and get the best seats while saving money. The other week, I was in Norman, Oklahoma for Tennessee, Oklahoma. I didn't buy a ticket until 30 minutes before kickoff. I was able to save a lot of money, and I had a spectacular seat and view from where I was sitting. So on the Game Time app, prices drop as the event gets closer. You're guaranteed to get the lowest price guaranteed. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. And you can also easily resell your tickets. And we have a great deal for the Bang Bang Niner Gang and for the faithful. If you download the app and you create an account, and you use the code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, you get $20 off. Terms apply, first purchase only, but it's a fantastic deal. If you want to go to this Niners-Seahawks game on Thursday, or you want to go to Niners-Chiefs in a rematch of Super Bowl 58, plenty of tickets available. You see how the app works here on your screen, where you can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to anticipate once you arrive. Best seats at the lowest price guaranteed. Prices drop as the event gets closer. Game Time Picks, a great feature because curation makes it easier to find tickets to not just sporting events. This is an app for concerts, comedy shows, theater events, and more. Next up here on our Niners-Seahawks preview, let's take a look at the Niners injury report. It is pretty long, and the Niners are on a short week. Charvarius Ward, he's questionable with this lingering knee issue. A lot of people don't expect for him to play, so if he can't, expect to see Isaac Yiadom and Renardo Green getting more cornerback reps. Chris Conley, also questionable with an oblique injury that he's been dealing with over the last couple of weeks. Jake Moody might go on IR in the lead up to this game. As of this recording, he has not yet, but he is going to be out for at least a month with that high ankle sprain that he suffered while trying to make that tackle against Arizona on Sunday. Talanoa Hufanga also might be an IR candidate. He tore multiple ligaments in his wrist. It's unfortunate for him because over the last 2 seasons, he has not been able to stay healthy. George Kittle, questionable rib injury. He was talking about this game as if he's going to play. George Kittle would not miss this game. He is going to play. Jair Brown, also questionable because of an ankle injury. The same can be said for Fred Warner. You can expect him to play as well, but they've been limited in practice. Jordan Elliott, questionable with a knee injury. The Niners could use him to stuff the run. And then Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles, who is more of a special teams linebacker, but occasionally will be in there as that third linebacker. He is doubtful to play with a calf ailment. How the Seattle Seahawks stack up here. They are running a new offensive system with a new offensive coordinator and a brand new coaching staff. And so far this year, the Seahawks have been a pretty good offensive unit. Ryan Grubb is their play caller. He used to call plays for the University of Washington. And Washington, as we know, last year in the Pacific Northwest, was able to make it to the national championship game, and Michael Penix was putting up crazy numbers. So the Seahawks here, 11th in points per game offensively. They are 7th in yards per game, 9th in yards per play. They have struggled with moving the chains on third down. That's been a little bit of a problematic trend, and they're 10th in red zone efficiency. So when they get inside the red area, much better at converting those drives into touchdowns compared to the Niners, nearly 64% right there. Defensively, this is Mike McDonald's area of expertise, 17th in points per game. That number has really gone up a lot the last 2 weeks in consecutive losses. 11th in yards per game, 7th in yards per play, 9th when getting stops on third downs, 11th in the red zone. So they're doing pretty well in a couple of key metrics. How the Niners stack up. Look at these offensive numbers here. And this is why I think that if the Niners figure it out, they could start lighting up the scoreboard and really hit their stride toward the middle or latter portion of the year. San Francisco is 10th in points per game because of the red zone woes, but they're 2nd in yards per game, 2nd in yards per play, 5th on third downs, but 29th in red zone rate at 40.9%. Defensively, some of the numbers here aren't bad for the Niners. They're not giving up a ton of points. 21.2 ranks 12th. They're 10th in yards per game, but they're 20th in yards per play. They are 22nd in third down conversion rate, 16th middle of the pack in the NFL in red zone percentage. That serves as a really good segue for my keys to the game for the Niners. Look, they have to figure it out in the red zone. This is on Kyle Shanahan. This is on Brock Purdy. It's on the offensive line. It's on the Niners getting separation with their wideouts. They're last in the league in separation. Now, that's not much of a red zone issue, but if you score on some explosive plays, that helps you out a lot. But once you get in that red area, especially with Jake Moody out and Matthew Wright as your field goal kicker here for the foreseeable future, you would imagine you got to turn those drives into 7, not 3. Those 4 points, that's the difference in the Rams loss and in the Cardinals loss. The Seahawks are going to try to run the football, especially after seeing how the Niners couldn't tackle against New England, couldn't tackle against Arizona, and all of the success that James Conner was able to have. The Niners this year have had so many secondary breakdowns. Can't happen against the Seattle team, led by DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and Tyler Lockett. Noah Fant is also a pretty good tight end, and Geno Smith has been spinning it, even though the Niners have been able to own him the last couple of years. The turnover battle will be crucial. The Niners turned it over 3 times against the Cardinals. What happened? They lost the game. In the NFL, over the last several years, teams that win the turnover battle win about 80% of the time. For Matthew Wright, stadium is going to be rocking. Can't get nervous and cost your team here. Take advantage of the opportunity, and you never know. Maybe that leads to you earning a long-time gig as a kicker in this league. The Niners have to generate pressure on Geno Smith. There are a lot of problems so far for the Niners in getting consistent pressure on the quarterback. But if you pressure Geno Smith, he is prone to turning the football over. The Niners continue to feed Jordan Mason. Find success on the ground. I think the Niners and Kyle Shanahan have been a little bit too pass happy this year. I get it. Brock Purdy is looking for that new contract, and he's had a lot of success with throwing the football through the air. Up until Arizona, I thought that he was playing the best football of his life. But have a more balanced attack. That's when the Niners are at their best. I want to see the pass game go through Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, and Jawan Jennings. Deebo Samuel is having one of the worst years of his career. Can't create separation, and his missed tackle rate the lowest of his NFL career. Kyle Shanahan has blown 18 double-digit leads as the head coach of the Niners. You choke away another one, could be the year for San Francisco. And the offensive line has to bring it against a good defense that caused the Niners fits last year because Mike McDonald had the number of Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan. With that, I ask you this. Predict the score. San Francisco 49ers traveling to Lumen Field to take on the Seattle Seahawks. And what Nick Bosa is calling it a must-win game. I think the Niners bring it. I do think it's going to be a hard-fought game. I do think that they figure out some of their red zone issues. They have to at some point. This team is too good not to. Of note, Andy Reid and the Chiefs are 30th in red zone efficiency. Give me the Niners 26, Seahawks 20. Niners even up that record at 3-3 going into the Super Bowl rematch against Kansas City.